Morning, everyone. Today is February 2nd, 2026, and today is another live trading session. We are looking at the same three pairs that we have always been looking at, which is NASDAQ, US 30, and gold. We currently have we're looking at NASDAQ right now. The current sentiment for NASDAQ came out about 50-50 this morning. So again, we will mark out 8:30 and then we'll wait to see what price wants to do. We saw that in London session. If we go to our higher time frame, we saw London session coming into today, has currently made the low of the week. That also swept into price action from last week, but as we can see inside of this price range, there was nothing for us to react off of, so this price action basically just reacted off of these wicks. And then currently, like I said, we have a 50-50 sentiment, with news also being at 9 o'clock this morning, which is in about 25 minutes. So we will wait to see what opportunities actually present itself on this pair. We then have US 30. And US 30 sentiment came out about the same as NASDAQ, except there's more bullish stocks in the US 30 sentiment than there are bearish stocks. So I would expect this to probably continue to go bullish for today. Again, from a higher time frame perspective, we've seen that we had this previous low of the week here that was swept with London's price action. If we go on an even higher time frame, we saw we had this sell side liquidity here that price tried to stab into last night, but as we can see with this line, this price action failed to stab further than this price range that was already in price. And so currently, again, we're just sitting on our hands and waiting to see what opportunities present itself. But this is a nasty 5-minute opening candle. We've already swept sell side liquidity, and we are now looking at attacking some form of buy side liquidity, as well as the fact that if we mark out, we have a 1 hour fair value gap here that price reacted off of, and that can also even be that can also even be scaled down to a 15-minute time frame in order to mark this 15-minute fair value gap, which ultimately is what this price raid just tapped off of. But again, we'll mark out our 8:30, and we will wait to see if any opportunities present themselves on this pair as well. And then lastly, we have gold. Our gold sentiment for today came out as bearish. This is the current gold chart for the week. If we look at what price was doing, we have this sell side liquidity down here. We have this low that is marked out as a previous low of the week, but this was just the low that was created back on January the 19th. And that was actually taken out with this long price leg to the downside that we saw last week. And then currently we are now in the price range of, we have a low of the day that's set in the market, as well as a high of the day that is currently set in the market. And again, we have that bearish sentiment, but we do have that news event at 9 o'clock. So we'll continue to sit on our hands here and see if any opportunities present themselves on this pair as well. But that is the current outlook of today. Nothing really going on all too much right now. We'll continue to sit on our hands and wait. Okay, so just a little update on what's going on. Really, the only thing that we will be looking to trade today is gold. We have NASDAQ, which is here. If we look at a 15-minute on NASDAQ, like we talked about at New York Open, we had swept liquidity being on the low-hand side. So this fair value gap here that we were looking for a price to try and dig into to probably revert us back bullish if we were going to continue to go. But if we take this away, we see we never stabbed into this fair value gap. We opened 8:30 with a bullish momentum candle. And so with that bullish momentum candle, again, we have just started to stack. Even if we go down to a 5-minute time frame, we see we've got nothing but bullish candles since market open. And then again, from that higher time frame perspective, being the 15-minute and the hour, if we look to the left, there's really nothing here that should be holding price or sending price back to the downside. So we basically would expect for price to try and continue its way bullish, trying to take out this form of liquidity, either whether that be today or whether that be going into tomorrow after this session finishes. And then same thing for US 30. US 30 is basically doing the exact same thing that NAS is doing, except again, from a higher time frame perspective, we know US 30 actually did raid the lows first with that open wick liquidity. And then after that open wick liquidity, we saw that 830 candle flip and then close bullish. And we see nothing but bullish candles after that. And again, from a higher time frame perspective, being the 15 and the hour, if we look to the left of the price range that we're currently in, we can see that there's nothing here for price to be reacting off of. All we have is wicks. So realistically speaking, you would expect price to continue bullish and take out this higher time frame liquidity. And then finally, we have gold, which gold is kind of consolidating. Again, from an hourly perspective, I was looking at taking a buy at the start of the session, but quickly got on a higher time frame and seeing that that wasn't going to be most probable. So if we see from an hourly time frame, we see that we reacted down here and we started going bullish. But once we started going bullish, we weren't making any forms of bullish fair value gaps or any spots in price in order for price to actually continue bullish off of. And this is the hourly, so same exact thing goes for the 15-minute. Again, if we look at this 15-minute price raid, or this 15-minute influx in price to the upside, the only fair value gap you have was the fair value gap that was made with the 315 candle, which is here. And you saw that that fair value gap got tapped into, and then price traded away from that fair value gap around 4:15 to 5 o'clock a.m. So this now becomes invalid, and so now the only fair value gap that we are really looking at in price is what was presented at 8:30. This is what I was looking to originally take my buy off of, but like we saw on the higher time frame, there's nothing there to be actually buying. So we just waited, given that we know that we have news at 9 o'clock. And thankfully we waited because, again, this fair value gap got torn straight through. And now we are flipping this fair value gap and looking to see if price is going to continue to either create price legs that are bearish in order to take us down to this first liquidity low and then this liquid low, and then so on and so forth with the price ranges that are created inside of this, or with the liquidity ranges that are created inside of this price range, or we're going to see some form of consolidation. But again, we'll continue to sit on our hands and wait to see what presents itself. Okay, just another update. It's now 9:15. Price has basically done exactly what we said that it was going to do in the last time that I was speaking. We see that the NASDAQ has gone up to these internal liquidity ranges inside the price. I tried to align with it at 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock, we've seen that for one, we're at a key level. Again, every time that I talk about key levels, I know a couple people have asked me about it. There's only two pairs that I have key levels for, and that's NASDAQ and US 30. NASDAQ key levels are every 125 points. And again, if you don't believe me, you can go back to any time in history and you can go back test it for yourself in order to validate it. But throughout history, we have seen that on a day-to-day basis, NASDAQ usually moves in increments of 125 points, meaning that given that this is such a volatile pair, we have to find a way to chop it up and a way for it to collect liquidity in order for it to get to its next form of liquidity. So again, if we have buy side here, we know that if 830 price opens here and this is buy side liquidity, we know that there's going to be places in price throughout here to here that price has to stop, price has to recollect liquidity, recollect orders, and then continue bullish. So for, again, NASDAQ, that's every 125 points. So starting at 25,000, it would be 25,000, 25,125, 25,250, 25,375, 25,500, and then so on and so forth. And then for US 30, it's every 250 points. So 49, starting at 49,000, it would be 49,000, and then 49,250, 49,500, 49,750, and then 50,000. And so basically, that's kind of how the that's just kind of how the liquidity pools work in terms of where it collects liquidity. US 30 every 250 points, and then NASDAQ every 125 points. But needless to say, again, at 9 o'clock, we were at this 25,750 key level. Once we got to that, I seen that at the 8:45 candle, we had created a small bullish fair value gap that we had already tapped into and we were starting to run away from. So I went down to the 1 minute time frame, and as you can see here, I had this entry marked up because I was expecting that if price was going to react here, I was going to expect a break of structure and then price to pull back into this fair value gap in order to take us bullish to this objective. Ultimately, we didn't end up pulling back, so this just becomes invalid. And like we talked about, price goes straight to that level that we were looking at it to go to. Next, we have US 30. Again, US 30 doing the same thing. It's just mirroring NAS. NASDAQ's going bullish. US 30 is just mirroring NAS and going bullish today. Same exact premise here. I saw at 9 o'clock, we were inside of this 5 minute fair value gap that was created at 8:40. We had wicked to the downside, and then we had closed bullish here with that 9 o'clock candle. Once again, I went down to my 1 minute time frame, and I was expecting the same exact thing. We have our first presented fair value gap that's bullish. I expected us to break this structure to invalidate this bearish fair value gap here that was created at 8:56, and then I expected price to pull back, give us an entry, and then trade higher to go and take out this liquidity high, and then so on and so forth. Ultimately, the same exact thing that happened with NASDAQ happened with US 30. We ultimately just ran and we completed our objective of the high before actually retesting this liquidity. So this, again, now becomes invalid. So now, the only thing that we have left, and like we talked about earlier, gold is now basically off the list just because, again, if we just look at a 15-minute time frame, price is stuck. We have a high of the day that was created, right, at 6:45. We have this low of the day that was created at 12:30. We're stuck in between these two ranges, along with the fact that, again, on a 15-minute time frame, what do we have here at 5 a.m.? We have a bullish fair value gap. So if price on gold was to continue bullish, we would have expected 8:30 pricing to stab into this fair value gap and then continue bullish. But that's not what happened. And so now, again, throwing that back on, ever since 8:30, what have we seen? We've just been consolidating sideways. So now, the only thing that we have basically left to look at for today is this US 30 trade. We now have a 5 minute that has set itself up on US 30, which is a potential for a pullback. So there is a potential that we pull back into this 5 minute FBG, and then we ultimately take out this buy side liquidity, which is already marked on the hourly time frame. And just from a higher time frame perspective, this is where the next liquidity pool is. Again, we've already created high of the day, which is what we're currently at on US 30, as well as the fact that, again, this wick was very, very severe at 8:30. So there is a possibility that we actually don't get that, that we don't get this entry and that it delivers. But once again, this is the last thing that we will kind of be looking at for today in order to take an entry. Okay, so this will probably be the second to last update of the session, but it doesn't look like we're going to get anything today. Again, we were just looking at this fair value gap that was presented at 9:05 on US 30. This was the last entry that we were looking to take. It was looking good with this 9:25 candle, looking to try and pull back so that we could get some form of sweep before 9:30. And then we would expect at 9:30 to 10 a.m. to take us to this price range high, which is that external liquidity. But ultimately, we did not get that. Price started to try and revert back to our entry, and then now we see price closed, price pullback, closed bearish, and then now we have a bullish candle that's flipping, that is looking to try and deliver us to our objective before 10 a.m. Aside from that, like we said, US or NASDAQ not really doing anything, and then gold, again, same premise, not really doing anything. There was an inversion entry on gold that I just kind of seen, but it wouldn't have really been probable to take because, as I've talked about on almost every one of these live streams, I want to be targeting high or low of the day. That is your most safe objective. That is usually when you're going to be aligned with price. Is if you're bullish, you're looking to target high of the day, and if you're bearish, you're looking to target low of the day. And so realistically speaking, like we talked about with this 8:30 candle, this was a bullish fair value gap, but we saw that this bullish fair value gap got closed beneath at 8:50. And so once this bullish fair value gap got closed beneath, this turns into a bearish inversion fair value gap, essentially meaning that you can take this bullish fair value gap once it's closed and use it for a bearish entry. So you could have gotten in, it would have been this candle here, the 9 a.m. candle, and your stop loss would have been, again, above the IFBG candle. But like I talked about, if we realistically want to be targeting highs and lows of the day, if we were shorting here, our low of the day would have been all the way down here, which would have been 11%. But realistically speaking, with the way that price took from 12:30 all the way to 6:45 a.m. in order to make this huge price range, it would be very improbable that from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we take out this entire price range to the downside. And so again, that just becomes invalid due to that. But you could have taken that and you could have targeted short-term liquidity if you wanted to, being these lows and this internal liquidity. But like I've talked about, that's just not my bread and butter model, especially given that we have to take all circumstances into consideration. It's a Monday, so we know that it's low probable because it is a Monday. It's also the first week of the month, so we know that this week we have NFP on Friday, which is our big news event, meaning that Monday through Thursday, realistically speaking, will be more on the low volatility side. And then Friday, when the unemployment claims do come out, or when non-farm payroll claims come out, we should see some form of volatility. But yeah, that's basically everything that we have been looking at for this morning. Again, I'll let this continue to ride until we take out this high, because that'll be the last objective that we're looking for price to complete today. And then after that, we'll probably close the session for today. Okay, and with this objective reached, that is now going to conclude our trading session for today. No trades taken today. Again, all three pairs did exactly as we projected them to do for the session. US 30 goes bullish and reaches this external liquidity that we had marked out at the start of the session. We have NASDAQ, which also went bullish, tried to take out this external liquidity, but we've now just gotten into some form of consolidation. Again, we're going into the new hour in 5 minutes, so I would expect this to just accumulate, and then eventually by the end of today, this high should be taken out. And then gold, again, gold continues to go bearish, but gold didn't present us any opportunities other than that IFBG at the start of this session. And so, yeah, that's all the opportunities that we were able to get today. But once again, that concludes today's trading session, and we will be back tomorrow for another live trading session.